Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating human story. How we actually learned to navigate our world. Thousands of years ago, early humans stood on familiar ground, looked out at the horizon, and just made the bold decision to explore the unknown. We're going to trace that exact journey, from being completely tethered to our immediate surroundings, all the way to how we can now pinpoint our exact location anywhere on the globe.
To really wrap our heads around this, try putting yourself in the shoes of our ancestors for a second. Think about how dangerous early travel actually was. Imagine a world completely without roads, without maps, and obviously without any modern technology. No digital maps in your pocket, no glowing screens. If you wanted to travel, you had to find your way using absolutely nothing but your surroundings. It was this massive high-stakes game of survival, because back then, getting lost usually meant you just didn't make it back.
So what did they do? Well, at first, humans had to navigate purely by observing nature. Since they lacked any specialized instruments, they relied 100% on the Earth itself to figure out where they were going. For our earliest ancestors, nature wasn't just scenery. It was literally the very first map.
They did this by following massive, immovable features. I'm talking about rivers, mountains, coastlines, and distinct landmarks. Early travelers would painstakingly memorize their routes by, say, tracing the winding path of a river, or making sure they kept a giant mountain peak to their left. As long as you could see these features, you had a reliable way to remember your route and, crucially, find your way back.
Okay, so that works great on land. But traveling across open seas created a much bigger problem. And this beautifully illustrates our first major hurdle. Land navigation was totally reliant on seeing those landmarks. Out on the water, though, the surroundings are completely blank. The second your ship goes far enough that the land dips below the horizon, every single visual cue you rely on is just gone.
So ask yourself, what on earth happens when sailors lose sight of land? Without a coastline to follow, early sailors had absolutely no clear way to know where they were going. The ocean is just vast and uniform, offering zero landmarks. Every direction looks exactly the same. We desperately needed a better method for guidance if we were ever going to survive the open water. Humanity's ingenious solution? We just looked up. One of the earliest and best navigation tools wasn't something you could hold, it was the stars. Ancient sailors studied the night sky and started to realize something amazing. While the sky moves over the course of a night, certain stars actually appeared in fixed, reliable positions. And just like that, celestial navigation was born.
Within that giant starry map, one star became the ultimate VIP, the North Star. It became an incredibly important fixed guide for anyone traveling in the Northern Hemisphere. Locating the single glowing dot meant you instantly knew exactly which way was north. It gave sailors their bearings and a huge sense of safety, no matter how far out to sea they were.
And some ancient civilizations became absolute masters of this natural toolkit. Take the Phoenicians, for example. They became incredibly skilled sailors by combining all these environmental clues. They successfully traveled all across the Mediterranean Sea by mapping those stars, observing the subtle shifts in wind directions, and carefully tracking the deep ocean patterns beneath their boats.
Eventually, this natural intuition was taken a step further by the Greeks, who brought a real scientific approach to it all. Their scholars rigorously studied the Earth, created early maps to figure out geographic relationships, and developed the very first tools specifically designed to measure physical positions. They basically brought mathematics directly into the art of finding your way.
But then, we get a massive technological leap that changed navigation forever. First developed in ancient China, the magnetic compass was a total game-changer. Instead of relying on a visual line of sight to a star, this brilliant little tool used the Earth's own magnetic field to point north, right there in the palm of your hand. And the importance of this invention really cannot be overstated. Think about it. Navigating by the stars is fantastic, but it has one terrifying flaw. It requires a clear night sky. If a fierce storm rolls in and clouds cover the stars, you are literally flying blind. But the compass? It works flawlessly, no matter what the weather is doing. For the very first time, sailors could navigate safely even when the sky was totally cloudy and landmarks were invisible. That newfound weatherproof reliability directly launched what we now call the Age of Exploration. Armed with better navigation, explorers could finally cross vast open oceans with absolute confidence. It allowed them to leave the safety of familiar shores without the dread of getting permanently lost, leading them to discover entirely new lands. Sailors during this era weren't just guessing their way across the water anymore. They were calculating their exact positions using a seriously advanced toolkit.
They relied on vastly improved maps, highly accurate compasses, and complex instruments like the astrolabe, which let them calculate their position just by measuring how high the stars were above the horizon.
It's wild to step back and look at this whole timeline, isn't it? Seeing how technology completely transformed the practice over time. We started out just observing raw nature and stargazing. Then we moved into the Middle Ages with the revolutionary magnetic compass, mapped the globe in the age of exploration with astrolabes, and eventually, ships gained advanced equipment that led us right into the modern era, where satellites make global positioning possible.
What's truly staggering about today is the sheer speed of it all. Think about an ancient sailor pulling out an astrolabe, consulting a paper map, and doing the math just to get a rough idea of where they were. Today, modern GPS can show our exact location, anywhere on the face of the Earth, in mere seconds. The jump in efficiency is just unbelievable.
As we wrap up this explainer, here is the real takeaway I want to leave you with. Whether you're using a distant mountain peak, the faint glow of the North Star, a physical compass, or the modern GPS satellite system beaming straight to your phone, every single one of these modern navigation systems comes from the exact same ancient human desire. We just want to explore the unknown, and we want to find a way home. So, with that incredible world-spanning technology sitting right there in your pocket, how are you going to use it to explore your world today? Thanks so much for joining me.